Thank you, Katie. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. First of all, thank you so much for attending this session. I'm guessing the topic caught your eyes. Court leadership and the mandate for resilience. Indeed, we have many reasons to be resilient in the performance of our jobs. We'll review some of them. I want your thoughts on reasons we need to be resilient. But I'll start by saying, who remembers what happened in early 2020? In the first quarter of 2020. What happened in the first quarter of 2020? COVID. I was doing consulting work at the time, and suddenly everything was thrust to a halt. I decided, I want to think about this topic called resilience. And to my amazement, I found I had collected an unbelievable amount of resources and publications on resilience. I put some information together. I published an article on this and posted it on the courtleader.net website. And we will draw upon one of the documents that's within that article a little bit later in our time together. I always thought I was a pretty positive person, an optimist. I still think I am. But when COVID started and things were going to be different, I thought it was important to, if you will, study up on the topic of resilience. The result was a lot of the material that I'm going to share with you today. Had a lot of resources, as I mentioned. I was amazed at the collection I had. Articles, books, motivational information. So it is my hope that this session will serve as a reminder to us about the importance of being resilient, as a nudge to us about resilience and the ability to be agile and bounce back, and maybe a call to action for us to remember the importance of being able to go with the flow, survive when we get knocked down, things of that nature. Okay, misperform. Computer. Give me a coaching, Ryan or AV staff. Ask me to speak in front of people, I can do it. Ask me to master technology, I need to study resilience. Thank you. All right, it is my bias that we can control ourself and our future. This slide meant a lot to me. It is not in the stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves. So my bias behind all of this is a reminder that we can control what's going on. A lot of it's up here, some of it's right here. It's not in the stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves. We know, you experience it every day. As leaders in courts, we have challenges, we have opportunities, we have the pressure to keep operations stable, to go with the flow, to get creative, to adapt and adjust. Those are natural elements of our work life, right? Yet I think we still have a reason and have a reminder that we need to be resilient. I will also start this presentation with this. We each come to things, challenges, our work, with different perspectives and different lenses. What do you see on the left-hand side over here? A lady. Tell me more description. Huh? A fancy lady. Very good. So we've got a fancy lady with a little feather maybe. What else do you see up here? The old woman. Who sees the old woman? Raise your hands. Very good. So if you see an old woman, here's the nose. Here's the mouth, maybe. Yeah. Oh! Whoa! Whoa! So again, if you see a young woman, here's the nose. Here's maybe the cheekbone. Here's maybe the ear and the feather out of her cap. Different perspectives. Different perspectives. Okay, what do we see here? Black Panther. Very good. Very good. So to some of us, this is just a mountain, right? This happens to be the Superstition Mountains outside of Phoenix, Arizona, where I live. Rugged red rock, but at certain times of the year, this little figure shows up. It's a panther or a tiger or something like that. Who saw the panther? Very good. Very good. Very good. So we come at this from different perspectives, different experiences, different biases. So I know you will consider and receive this information about resilience through the lens of those different perspectives. And I want to also take a moment to shout out to our virtual audience. Please send your information and your comments to Jamie, who's seated up at the front of the room, because I want to hear from you as well. Coming at this from different perspectives, I want to frame our material today by saying there are certain things in our work world, our court employment, that contribute to or create that mandate to be flexible and resilient and adaptable. They are things like the responsibilities and duties we have, the different roles we might have to play, the different influences on us, and challenges that we face. So we're going to quickly review those. Then we will talk about different ideas for resilience and have you think about what you might want to do to up your game on personal resilience. This PowerPoint and an exercise sheet are included in the app. So I invite you to follow along if you want. The exercise sheet is there for sure. Print it out and think about using it when you get home. But for now, let's dive into some of these contributors towards leadership resilience, or contributors towards the need for resilience. Here is a list of court leader responsibilities. Does this look familiar to any of you? Do you see your functions up there? These came from the NACM publication called The Court Administrator, a Manual. And the functions up here include typical things like case flow management, jury management, facility security. This is quite a spread of things that you have to master, right? That we have to master. So these contribute towards, wow, I really need to be nimble and adaptable, and I need to know lots of things. By the way, on all of these, I have cited the source of where the information came from if you wanted to go back and study further. Well, what about this? This is a chart that's been around since about 1985, and it's a fairly, I'll use the term in court speak, famous chart that compares and contrasts functions of the administrative side of the house and the judicial side of the house. And the thing I want to point out here is there's this whole middle area that's the joint decision making that may cause us challenge, friction, role definition challenges, right? So some of us operate in pure administrative functions. Some of us may have judicial functions delegated to us, but a lot of us probably have to operate in the middle, right? So this is one more element about our workplace that may create a reason for us to be tough, to have a tough skin, to be able to weather and thrive the environment. Here's another chart taken from a publication talking about the difference between judges and administrators. And Mary McQueen, the president of the National Center for State Courts, included this chart, which shows perhaps the different credentials or grounding for judicial officers from the different credentials or grounding for court managers, court leaders. Things can vary in terms of the education, the focus of their position, how they get satisfaction or gratification, decision-making, literally management approach to the organization, even incentives for performance. There can be wide variations between judicial and administrative. This has been out for a number of years, and the whole idea of this was to point out it really is nice if judges and administrators can work for interdependence, information sharing, integration, institutionalizing processes, and bringing integrity to this partnership. Let me pause and ask, who has seen this chart before? Raise your hands. Not very many of you. Think about in your work world, are you seeing any elements of this? I'm seeing several heads nodding. Are you seeing any elements of this? Yes. So when we are faced with a challenge in our work world, we may learn something by thinking about this contrast of those we're working with and how we need to anticipate different bias, different grounding, different culture, if you will, based on the role of judicial versus administrative. Let me pause and take any question or reaction to this. Some of you have seen this before, but not a lot of you. Okay, no question? I'll move on. You have a question? Yes, please.
Collaborative should also be under judges because we can't work without the court managers. So we have to collaborate.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, you're right. Collaborative should probably be infused everywhere. Very good. Thank you for pointing that out. Who else wants to comment or react? Well, let me ask you this. Do all of your organizations feel that the collaborative environment is present? Yeah, no. I heard a yeah, I heard a no, and I saw a solid Now, we're not miracle workers, so think as you hear me share some of these aspects about being resilient, think about how you can tap into them to work for the collaborative environment, nurture it, create it, bring it to life, things like that. Here's another thing that's happening in our court environments, right? We've got this concept of executive team. Judges are part of it. Administrators are another part of it, but hopefully they join hands and make it work by collaborating together. This is one more element that's contributing to the need for us to figure out how to thrive in the environment. Well, the NACM core competency on leadership pointed out these different roles that a court leader may play. There are 8 different roles here. There's a lot of subject matter to master in each and every one of these roles. And some of us may naturally want to play a certain role, but may be thrust into another one up here. I have given a course on these roles multiple times over and have asked attendees to rank them in terms of the most important roles. Would anyone like to take a guess as to what I have heard when I have taken those polls? What do you think is the number one most important role? Just shout it out. Whoa, I heard. Okay, over here. Motivator, good one, good one. Communicator, that's the number one, communicator. Motivator is right up there. Anyone else want to take a guess? Strategist. You know, interestingly, in that poll, strategist was not at the top. But it's a reminder that depending on the need, depending on the time, depending on the circumstance, we may have to filter in and out of any number of these roles. We may have to demonstrate our ability to be a motivator, to be a diagnostician, to be a communicator, to be a collaborator. And so that's one more thing that makes it challenging for us to do our jobs. We've got all these roles. We need to be conversant in them. We need to be willing to move in and out. That's one more thing that contributes to our challenges. Those of you who've been through some of the Institute for Court Management courses may have seen this visual. This visual represents the culture of our courts. And it might be a culture that's heavily on everyone gets along and everyone likes to collaborate, or it may be a culture of just let me do my thing in my division. Can you see elements of your organization in this chart? This too is another contributor to why we need to be nimble, because we may need to go into an organization that's in one of these cultures and change it. We may be in a court that has a mix of all of them, or something may happen and suddenly the organization goes into a hierarchical culture. So this is yet one more contributor to why I think it's important to be resilient. Do we have anything from the chat? Okay. Here's a list of other influences. This is something I compiled as COVID was rolling out, because I was hearing different podcasts and webinars about what courts were doing to respond to the pandemic. And take a look at these influences up here, ranging from the need to make sure each day's operation was stable and able to happen, to evolving processes and the ever-present need to have technology and be accountable. Does anyone offer other influences that should be added to this chart? In other words, what's missing? Mental health. Mental health of?
Both the workforce and our customers.
The mental health of the workforce and our customers. That should be up here. That is also another pressure, if you will. Very good. Who else? What's missing from up here? Access to justice. Yes, that needs to be up here. Good one. Who else? Security. Yes. Security is another one. So we've got all of these things percolating that we need to keep in mind. This, again, this is the list I started at the beginning of COVID. Are there any items you would add to this list beyond those already mentioned from present day influences? What about the return from hybrid work or remote work? What about staff retention? Does that create any others on your minds?
In nurturing.
Nurturing. Oh, that's a good one. Nurturing. So, yet another skill set we as leaders need to think about. Wow. Well, I ask you, how do you all master all this? Yes.
From the chat, we have fairness in implementing policy.
Fairness in implementing policy. Is anyone dealing with that? Very good. Thank you, Jamie. That's a good one. So we have all these things tugging at us. We need to be fair in implementing things. We need to remember access. We need to remember security. So these are all tugs on our brain power, our physical effort, and the organization as a whole. Thus, I bring up the topic of resilience. It is a soft skill. Resilience involves things like having personal stamina and habits and people skills. A soft skill involves these things. A hard skill, on the other side, is something like operating a scanning machine or running a cash register. Boy, that's an outmoded idea. Running a cash register, driving a car. Who else can name a hard skill or a technical skill? What? Typing, yes. Typing. So we're talking about, when we think about resilience, we're talking about soft skills, communication skills, interpersonal abilities, integrity, adaptability. And thus I turn us to the importance of thinking about our thoughts, our words, our focus, and our actions. We're now going to move into a sampling of resilience ideas, techniques, and strategies. And then we will spend some time asking you to kind of think about your own resilience and what you might want to do. Here is an article titled Having a Successful Mindset. And for those in the back of the room, get out your binoculars. My apologies. Also, look at this in the app because this is there. What I took from this article is the importance of paying attention. Pay attention to what your mindset is, the words you are using to describe your challenges, how you are viewing your situation. Again, this was titled Having a Successful Mindset. You will notice as I go through some of these sources, there are commonalities from different authors and different sources. I invite you as I go through these to make note of, wow, I'd like to try that one. Wow, that one might be good for me in my circumstance now. Here's another source called How a Crisis Can Help You Cultivate a Growth Mindset. And in this source, there's a list of a variety of things from being patient, practice self-improvement, be willing to make mistakes. My takeaway from this list is that mistakes and missteps are okay, so we shouldn't beat ourselves up when we might feel that. Again, this one is how a crisis can help you cultivate a growth mindset. Here's an interesting source, Develop Habits for Mental Strength. How many of you think you have mental strength? Raise your hand if you do. Good for you. I want you to come up here and teach me. Good for you. This source says we should be willing to learn, we should be willing to adapt, we should think outside the box, we should be self-aware, and we should control to avoid distraction. I think these are really good points. By the way, I'm a student of this too. I'm not an expert. I'm a practitioner of all of this too. Here's another source from Peter Drucker, Managing Oneself. Ask, what are my strengths? How do I work best? Under what conditions? What are my values? Where do I belong? What and where can I contribute? This has been out there a long time. These are valid questions we could ask ourselves. We could ask our colleagues. We could think about. I particularly like, what and where can I contribute? What and where can I contribute? Here's from an author, Daniel Goleman, What Makes a Leader? And this list reminds us self-awareness, self-regulation, maybe even self-motivation. Another great list. Are you beginning to see some similar suggestions across different sources? I think you might be. I actually saw one of these authors in person, Andrew Chate, and he talked about keys to finding your inner strength and overcoming life hurdles. And, you know, here we hear again, know yourself, know where your strengths are, know how emotion may affect you. I particularly like the idea of keep things in perspective. This says time-wise, past, present, future, but keep things in perspective in terms of maybe magnitude of what's happening. So I really like this book. It's from a book called The Resilience Factor. Well, here's a list, 5 areas for attention for resilient living. And what I took from this particular article is the focus on self-discipline. Have self-discipline, know who you are, know what's going to set your buttons, be recognizing it and able to deal with it. This says mindset, communication, self-discipline, proactivity, an important point in this list. Here's a great one I came across when I was looking for sources, Arianna Huffington's 60-second rule. And what does it say? Practice gratitude when you're washing your hands. Journal, write notes, keep track of things, even if it's only a few minutes a day. Exercise, even if only for 3 minutes. What I took from this is the importance of positivity. And I have practiced this many, many times in my career to journal. End of the day, maybe that night. What did I see? What did I feel? What did I experience? And more importantly, what can I do about it? Not who can I blame about it? What can I do about it? So this was a helpful source when I came across it from Arianna Huffington. 8 daily habits to build your mental strengths. And again, you should start seeing some common ideas here that were represented in an earlier author. Be willing to learn. Be willing to adapt. Think outside the box. Believe in yourself. Be self-aware. I think that theme runs through every one of these. Be self-aware. Success Magazine published an article titled 5 Strategies for Surviving Uncertain Times. And in here it says, Have a resilient mindset. Be clear on your priorities. Find gratitude in everything you experience. I like this next one. Swim towards your lighthouse. Might be calm in the storm. Create a lighthouse. I'll interject a couple of stories here. First of all, find unlikely gratitude. I was returning from a trip, and I retrieved my baggage at the carousel in the airport, and my ID tag had fallen off. Well, that launched me into a whole series of griping. Every time I travel, I lose the luggage tag. Every time woe is me. I'm home 10 days, and I get a letter in the mail with a brand new luggage tag. Not only a brand new luggage tag, but my old beat up, ripped in half luggage tag and a new attachment piece. Someone from American Airlines found my luggage tag on the tarmac and chose to send this to me. Wow, I need to retract all of my moaning and griping. I need to think more positively. What a kind gesture. Wasn't that neat? I was blown away. The next one, swim towards a lighthouse. There was a time in my career that I worked in an environment that was not going well. It just was not going well. So I started cutting deals with myself. If I can make it through today, and I didn't make a lot of money, if I can make it through today, I will allow myself to stop at the Circle K and buy a soda or something like that. Low price tag, low impact. Well, typically by the end of the day, I didn't need it, but it was that little lighthouse, that thing waiting for me if I needed it to get through the day. What can you create as your lighthouse that you can swim to? My guess is you can think of some things. Looking forward to seeing the family tonight. Looking forward to the weekend trip to the beach. So this author points out, swim towards something that can be your lighthouse or your calm in the storm. And I like this next one, practice mind over moment. How many of you practice meditation or something like that? Good for you. I am envious. Good for you. That's one way to do this. There is a book out there called Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics. I am a fidgety skeptic, and it has some good ideas in it. It provides you a way to get mind over what's all consuming, right? Okay. Here's pro-resilience behaviors. And the byline is how to thrive and stay focused even when you're not feeling it. Even when you're not feeling it. And this list covers everything from having discipline, boundaries. I like this next one. It's kind of similar to the lighthouse. Have saved the day short, spontaneous moments of rest. I think all of us have experienced the benefit of get up, walk around the block, get up, have some fresh air. That's kind of what this is referring to. Self-care, practice gratitude. Remember, you're not alone in this challenge. This is my own personal regime when I am challenged. This is what I go through. I ask myself, what should I do more of? What should I do less of? What should I do differently? What are my values? What's important to me? Am I headed that way or am I off track? And what can I learn from this? I strongly believe we can learn from every single thing that's coming our way, even the unpleasant times. What can I learn from this? Okay, let me pause and field any questions or reactions. Do you see any patterns in this? What patterns are you noticing in all of these sources? Self-reflection, yes. Self-awareness, yes. Anyone else? Yes. Purposeful. Be purposeful, which kind of relates to what's important to me and what are my values. Good one. Anyone else? Open mindset. Yes, thank you for mentioning that. I know that we all know how to deal with these things, and we all know how to tap into these techniques. The question is, can we do it in the heat of battle? I have failed at that myself. Can we do it in the heat of battle? So, we're now going to turn to you thinking about your approach to resilience, specifically thoughts, words, focus, and actions. So for this one, if you have a piece of paper handy or in your document ready to draw something, I want you to think about your thoughts, your words, your focus, and your action. And I want you to think about it in one particular way. This is a mind map. Several of you have had courses with me before where I always use this mind map idea because I think it is so very powerful. At the center is you. I want you to think about you through these different areas: thoughts, words, focus, and actions. And what do you need to do, learn, practice related to your thoughts, your words, your focus, your action? Let me give you an example. You might want to focus on words up here. And when something challenging happens at work, what's the first word that goes through your mind? Can't repeat it out loud. Word or phrase. Word or phrase. Okay, so if you wanted to zero in on your resilience, what words might you want to substitute for that word or phrase? Jot it down to yourself. That's one example. Okay, actions. Let's say you're having a tough go, and your action, your chosen action is, I'm going to go retreat to my office and shut the world out. We've all wanted to do it, right? Okay, what might you want to do differently? Jot that down. Now I'm going to ask you to think about this and write your notes, whether it's digitally or hard copy. Jot your thoughts, give you a few minutes to think about this, and then I'll ask for you to share. Again, you are at the center. You can choose one of these or multiples of these. What might you want to do to up your skills on resilience? We have a question.
Yes, I wasn't going to say anything, but it's in my head.
Bring it out. Bring it out. Hold up. Wait for the mic. Thanks, Katie.
So one thing that I noticed that's not here, and for me is very important, is social interaction, right? Being with other people, not necessarily your friends or whatever, but at least to be with other people. Because we saw that during COVID, right? It was very difficult for people when we could not reach out. And it's just interesting that it's not mentioned in any of the writings.
That is interesting. And in fact, that might be because I selected certain things that caught my eye. I agree. I think social interaction, and maybe you create another arm on this chart where you feed off of social interaction. Very good. Yes. Who else has a comment or a question? Okay, yes. Time for exercise.
I'll try to shut up, Janet, but the reason why that comment it makes me smile is because as we were doing this, I had exactly the opposite reaction. I thought to myself, one of the things that I would love to change is people stand in my doorway and talk to me about their days. And I sit there thinking it's important I maintain a rapport. It's important that I not be elitist. It's important that I be empathetic. And yet it eats my days. It eats
Does that
hours of
happen to
my
anybody
time.
else? That eats up your days? Yeah. Oh, so now here's a great contrast. On your chart, you might want to figure out how to leverage it, get more comfortable with it. Okay, all right. I said leverage. And on your chart, you might want to find ways to create that interaction. Here's a great example of how we bring different life experiences, different preferences, different needs, and the timing might be different. My guess is there's times when you really do want that social interaction, not when you're worn out from all day. Yeah, we have a comment back here. Erin.
Well, this conversation really makes me think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so me being able to listen is providing my staff with the ability to be safe, to feel heard, to feel a sense of belonging. But it may be preventing me from achieving self-actualization because I can't be as productive as I need to be. And so by serving my own needs or fulfilling my own needs, I may be not engaging with my staff on an ability to get a more basic need met that they need. And so I think if you maintain the thought of the hierarchy of needs, and if I am able to fulfill a more basic need level for them, that might outrank my need for a higher need on that hierarchy.
That Maslow's hierarchy is a great source, and thank you for mentioning that. Taking that structure and thinking about your skills, your resilience, your needs, your priorities, your preferences, your natural strengths, that would be an interesting one to evaluate too. So here's what I want you to do. Think about this little chart. Think about how you might populate your own. And you can be as creative as you want to be. What might you populate in these areas? Thoughts, words, focus, actions. You don't have to do all. If you want to do all, that's great. But just begin some ideas. The underlying thrust is to be more resilient. Give you a couple of minutes to work on this, then we will ask for volunteers. This is a mind map. Out of curiosity, how many of you have seen this concept before? Mind map. This, I think, is a very powerful tool. You can use this to solve any kind of problem. It is nothing more than self-brainstorming. What do I want to do? For example, I want to improve me. Okay, what do I need to do to improve me? In this exercise, we focused on thoughts, words, action, and focus. This is a self-brainstorming tool. You can use this to solve a work problem. You can use this to solve a problem at home. You can use this to brainstorm for your career. You can use this to brainstorm how to deal with maybe counseling an employee at work. Let me ask for any volunteers about what you may have come up with and the actual, which one of these you worked on. Do I have a brave volunteer? Far back of the room when you're done, Katie.
So I wrote something down for everything, but I'll share for words. I used to, when people would ask me how I was doing, I would never say fine because I felt like everybody just says fine. So I would say good and tired because I could always find something good in my life and I could always take a nap. But in 2024, I switched the tired to grateful.
Wow.
And so that
okay.
was something that I did.
I want to know how you can always find time to take a nap. Is anybody else interested in that?
No, not that I could find time, that I could always use.
Okay, all right, very good. So good and grateful, very good. All right, we've got a comment at the back, please.
I did focus, so I said focus on what's in my control.
Yes.
And by focusing on what's in my control and excluding those things out of my control, I can pinpoint what I need to get done and not let the outside noise bother me.
I love that example. There's a lot of noise all around us all the time, whether it's too much social interaction or too many knocks on the door or nobody's coming to see us. Focus on what we can control. Wonderful. Who else? Who else had some ideas on this? Up here.
One of the big things I have is separating the idea from the words, or what is being said and why is the person saying it.
What is being said and why is the person saying it? So take that further. What else would you add?
Well, at that point, the critical thing is to listen to what is being said and not to react or respond. Just hear the person out and then start moving forward from there, as opposed to reacting to it, becoming emotional. But this way you can move forward as opposed to getting caught in the emotional interaction.
Has anyone else been faced with this challenge? Yeah, I see a lot of nods. Yeah. This kind of relates to one of these sources saying, know what your triggers are. Know what your weaknesses are. If my weakness is when Susie comes to see me, I'm going to automatically think, I've already heard it. I've already heard it. Has anybody seen the relatively new movie called Jules? Jules? It's a relatively new movie, and the plot is there's these three relatively old senior citizens, and their whole life is to go to the city council meeting and step to the mic and say, and the council's sitting back there saying, I've already heard it. I've already heard it. Their whole purpose in life is to harangue whatever their favorite topic is. Well, lo and behold, a spaceship lands in the backyard of one of these guys, and an alien comes out. Now, nobody believes him, because all he wants to do is step to the mic and say the same old thing he's been saying for 10 years. One of our things is to know our trigger point. That's great. Thanks for sharing. Who else? Okay.
Listening to the facts rather than the stories that I'm telling myself.
Listening to the facts. So are you exaggerating the stories you're telling yourself? Yes. There is this concept of awfulizing things. Do any of us awfulize? I know I do. I remember the day when I was working in a large court and we had hearing officers or court commissioners. And the phone rings and I answer, and this commissioner says, "Get up to my office right now." Now, what did I think? Uh-oh, I'm in deep trouble. And it's one of those days when I'd had enough people at my door, and I thought, well, his position in this organization, I gotta go. So I get up there and I sit down and I'm ready to take down all the transgressions. And he said, "I just wanted to thank you for whatever." Lesson to self, don't always awfulize. Work off facts, not fiction. Thank you for those of you who shared. Now here's another example of a mind map. Those who've been in courses with me have seen this before. This is my actual mind map when I wanted to think about who am I going to be when I retire. So you can take the central theme and build out from it. Do you see how I've got the central theme, retirement. By the way, I am failing at retirement. And then I built out different groupings like hobby, exercise, volunteering, consulting, etc. This is a powerful problem-solving technique. I encourage you to think about it. I encourage you to try. You can jot it down, throw it away. In my own experience, I wrote this down 2 years before I retired, and I added notes to it as something else occurred to me. And I would carry it around as my calm in the storm that I was working towards. Does that make sense? I can't say enough about mind maps. Here is a chart. For those who can't read this, look at it in the app. This is the chart that I created in early 2020 when I was doing research on resilience techniques. And in this chart, I organized techniques under certain categories: mindset, self-awareness and control, focus, the second column from the left, the link to mission and goal in the middle, communicate and have connections. That might be where the social interaction thing could fit. And proactivity, lean in, be all in. These were the techniques that I identified from a variety of sources. Scan this list and comment to me on anything that catches your eyes that might be important for you. Scan this list. Oh, good one.
Turn adversity to advantage stuck out to me.
Which column is, I ought to have
The
this
last
memorized.
column in action, proactivity, and lean in.
Turn adversity to advantage. Yes. I happen to be on a project now where the leader is faced with some pretty big challenges. And my spiel to this leader is, turn adversity to advantage. There is an option for you here. There is an opportunity. So good one. Who else? What catches your eye in this list?
Accept setbacks and losses.
Yes, accept setbacks and losses. And when I was faced with that, that's what I would launch into. Okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? What am I supposed to learn from this? Anyone else? Something catch your eye from this list? Embrace disequilibrium. Boy, that's a mouthful. Embrace disequilibrium. Yeah. These were the descriptors or traits that I came across, and again, I organized them into these 5 different buckets, if you will. I have created a worksheet. It is in the app. I have not very many, but a few hard copies that Katie can hand out until we run out of them. Oh, yes! Embrace disequilibrium. So what I want you to do is, using this structure, think about your challenge in being resilient. And first of all, think about, what are your priorities? What are some things you want to do to be better at resilience, to practice resilience, to have it in your back pocket? Secondly, think about those focus areas and create your actions. Doesn't have to be all of them or all at once. But think about what you want to do. What is your priority for resilience? I'll give you my own real life example. Stop the negative self-talk. Stop the negative self-talk. Okay, if that's my example, if that's one of my priorities, what might I need to do in these areas? It pretty closely relates to my mindset, but there might be some things in these other categories. What can I do to be proactive to stop the negative self-talk? So use this as a worksheet. Again, I'm going to give you a little bit of time. Jot your notes. If you have it in the app, use that as your guide. If you don't have one, improvise. Jot some notes to yourself. The idea is to narrow our thinking. What is my priority to become resilient? Then, what might I want to do in these categories? And then, what do I start doing? Maybe I start journaling. Every time I have a negative thought, I countermand it with a positive thought. Maybe that's what I do. So this is merely one structure of a worksheet to think about resilience. Okay, I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about this, jot your notes, record your ideas. As I call us back together, I want to ask for any volunteers, again, brave people, that might want to share what became obvious to you as you worked through this. I see a hand halfway back. Thank you.
So, as a manager, I find that there's often an unrealistic expectation that you have all of the answers. And I need to give myself permission to say, I don't know, or can I get back to you? Same thing, I have a tendency to spin when things and you're getting pulled in 47 different directions. And just remember to breathe. Remember to breathe. And you don't have to have that answer, or that decision doesn't need to be made necessarily right in the moment.
No spinning and no perfection. Very good. Yeah, does anybody else feel that pressure to have all the answers as the manager? I experience that a lot. So it's okay. I like to say, well, that's a good question. What do you think? That buys me time. So very good. Thank you for bravely sharing that. Who else? Something that occurred to you as you worked through this exercise?
One thing I've been working on probably the last 4 or 5 months is accepting the things I cannot change.
Accepting the things you can't change. There are several of them in our environment, aren't there? Think of those earlier pages I showed. Yes, very good one. Anyone else? Yes, Katie, behind you over here. Oh, okay. Let's do this one first.
Mine's super quick. I look at things as a need to have, want to have, and a would be nice to have.
Yes.
So it's like I actually need to get this done, so you can categorize that way. And then if you're really lucky and you get to the would be nice to haves at the end of your day, you're feeling really good.
That's practical. Need to have, say the 3 categories again.
It was the need to have, want to have, and would be really nice to have.
Need to have, want to have, would be really nice to have. I like that. I'm adding that to my toolkit. Good, good, good. Over here. Oh.
For my resilience is empowering my staff and recognizing I need to build a team of experts, so I don't need to know everything. So I bring those experts together so you could achieve one main goal.
Very good. Recognize I need to build my team, my staff, my experts around me, which is a good expectation of a leader anyway, but hard to do. Thank you. Anyone else? One last comment. Yeah, 2 rows back, Katie.
I'm working on reminding myself that not everybody else's emergencies have to be mine. And that's just for your own mental health. Because if you're a people pleaser, you want to solve everyone's problems, but there's a priority list that you can only get to.
Not everybody's emergency needs to be mine. That makes me think of another thing that I need to work on. My level of seeking perfectionism does not have to be everybody else's, right? Does not have to be everybody else's. So thank you for sharing. This is one more practical worksheet I provide to you as maybe a way to think about what are your challenges in being resilient, where might you want to focus, and then what are some things you could do, maybe grouping in these areas. So we've had 2 examples of kind of charts or worksheets, the mind map and then this one. Think about this and how you can use it for other problems you might face. The theme of this session was resilience and the importance for us as court leaders. But this could be used for a variety of problem solving too. Remember, stress can be good. Stress makes us humble. It wakes us up from being complacent, right? I think we had this guy speak at a NACM conference. I was so struck by him that I have read more materials from him. And his whole focus is stress can be good. It fuels our resilience. Stress can be good. You've seen this one before. We heard earlier someone mentioned put on your own oxygen mask first. Take care of yourself first, then tend to those around you. I like this analogy. Think of your mindset and your brain and your thought process as an art gallery, and only put the finest works of art there. Put the Mona Lisas in there, or the Van Goghs in there. Make sure your art gallery is in good order. Think about the art gallery in your mind. Get rid of some of the negative stuff and put the good things in there. But if it all goes south, remember, approach each day like a dog, starting with greet people just because you can. Play as if no one is watching you. Play, find joy. Snuggle, now this might be difficult in the workplace. Snuggle if you can. Never shy away from showing genuine excitement. Little kids do this all day, every day. What the heck happened to us? We got conditioned. And lastly, if you absolutely have to, roll in it. Get over it. Roll in it, then go shower off and face the day anew. Remember, the intent of this session was to think about us as court leaders and the mandate or the pressures on us to be resilient. And I've showed lots of sources, and I consider this a reminder to us of the importance of being agile, resilient, able to get back up if we're disappointed, and maybe this as a call to action to you. I have included in the materials, so these are in the app, the sources that I had used for many of these slides. So take a look at them if anything has particular interest to you. Here's some of those well-known authors and books. I would like to ask if anyone has any last comment or aha that they would want to share with us as a group. I'm hoping you got some nugget you can take back. We have a comment up here.
So I have a personal affirmation that I use. It's take a deep breath and remember who the beep you are.
Take a deep breath and remember the beep who you are. I like that. There is a book out there where the author says, you know, remember, we might be pips, previously important persons. We aren't always important persons. Okay, I'll share my affirmation. It's on a ring that I wear or a bracelet. Right now I'm doing the ring. And it is, everything I need is streaming towards me. Affirmations are a really good thing to add to this toolkit. Now, you could take one of these mind map charts and populate it with all the affirmations you could think of and then have it in front of you, right? With a lot of positivity. Okay, thank you to everyone. I appreciate your presence. Go forward and be resilient.